The North Brim office smelled of pine resin and citrus vanilla. A warm hum rose from the radiator. Beyond the window, chimney smoke unraveled, and the bells sounded as if someone had wrapped them in soft wool. Down the hallway, Catsby, the resident Siberian cat, thick fur, plumed tail, ears tuned to hunt nerves and dissolve them into purrs, wandered freely like a snowflake with paws. Sophie Miller, a curvy beauty in a fitted coat and long blonde curls, checked the schedule on her tablet and sipped tea from her thermal mug. She lived just upstairs. The warmth of the wooden staircase still clung to her coat. The door opened. A tall guy stepped in, beanie pulled to his brows and a dark scarf around his neck. Catsby sniffed him and approved with a friendly rub. Sophie gave a professional smile. "Victor?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, the corner of his mouth flickering with playful surprise, as if for a moment he thought she'd recognized him. Sophie pointed at the sign. Minors must be accompanied by a responsible adult. She hesitated. Those hands did not look 17. A curl of hers snagged on his zipper. He lifted a hand. "May I?" he asked quietly, now certain there'd been a mix-up. "Go ahead," she allowed. A tiny motion, her curl came free. Catsby hopped onto the bench, a furry bridge between them. The inner door opened. Karen appeared with her clipboard. "Alan, I'm ready for you." The boy's mother and brother came in behind her. The newcomer turned toward them with natural protectiveness. That's when Sophie realized who they were. Victor Alcott, a film star since his teens, and his family. Rumor in town said they were living nearby, hiding from a media scandal. The piece clicked into place and Sophie regained her Leo composure. "So you're Victor Alcott," she said. "I'm Sophie Miller, the clinic psychologist." He pulled his beanie back a little, eyes bright with a Gemini's wit. "And in case it helps clear things up, I'm 21, he smiled. Sophie kept the professional smile, but inside her thoughts lit up like a candle on a snowy night. He's gorgeous. Tall, broad-shouldered, that jaw built to hold uncomfortable silences without breaking them. Then sanity tugged hard. "Don't get carried away, Miller, he's young. And you're a 35-year-old curvy woman living above the office who knows exactly where the boundaries go." Her pride straightened her spine. Precisely boundaries. And desire isn't a crime if it stays in its lane. "Sorry, I confused you with another Victor. He's a minor, and I haven't met him yet," Sophie explained warmly. "While Alan is in session, if you need general guidance, I can give you some so you can discuss it with Karen afterward. Everything here goes through her." "Perfect," he said lightly. "Thanks for the welcome." Outside, the bells rang again, muted and promising. Catsby jumped onto the counter and, with a gentle swipe, knocked an appointment card to the floor. Sophie's phone vibrated at the same time. "Karen." "Sophie, can you come in for a minute?" "Alan is sensitive to the background noise. I need your perspective to adjust the plan." Sophie lifted her gaze. Victor did too. Through the window, a flash crossed the glass, maybe a camera, or just snow. Sophie set her thermal mug on the counter, took a deep breath, and stepped toward the inner door, unaware that her life was about to change. The following afternoon brought a leaden sky and the soft quiet of snow. The office lights flickered twice and went out. The heater surrendered with a sigh. Karen stepped out of the consultation room. "The power's out. Alan is fine, but the building's generator hum is bothering him," she said. "Sophie, can you set up a quieter space?" Sophie Miller nodded. She typed a quick message to Karen and Alan's mother, going up to lobby living space with open door. "Temporary measure until power returns." "We'll go up slowly," she suggested to Alan. 3 steps and a pause. "Count with me." Halfway up the stairs, Catsby appeared and wrapped himself around the boy's ankles. His purring filled the stairwell like an old engine. On the upper floor, Sophie opened her door, kept the chain on, and guided them into the living room. The apartment was a warm rectangle, living room and kitchen sharing one space. To the left, a light fabric sofa with soft wool blankets, a thick rug, clay pots with plants, books stacked in calm little towers. To the right, the kitchen, a wooden counter with 2 stools, a row of spice jars, a kettle on the stovetop releasing faint citrus vanilla steam. Sophie switched on several battery candles inside frosted glass holders. The light turned amber, soft, without harsh flicker. Calm zone, she announced gently. Low sounds, soft lights, lake view. Alan, would you like to sit here? Alan nodded and sank onto the end of the sofa. Catesby jumped beside him, curled up and offered his head. The boy petted him in steady strokes. The purring padded the silence. His shoulders dropped a full centimeter. Victor Alcott watched Sophie move around the room, adjusting details without intruding. Lowering the blind a bit to soften the glare of the snow. Turning off the fridge hum with a switch, pointing out the window in case Alan wanted to count snowflakes. Victor smiled, disarmed by her precise attentiveness. "Thank you," he murmured. "This really helps. That's what we're here for," Sophie replied, with that warm firmness that rose straight from her Leo core. Her curls sparked with static against her scarf. She gave a small, knowing smile. A flash crossed the window. It wasn't snow. Victor's jaw tightened for a moment. "Did you see that?" he whispered. The intercom buzzed downstairs, insistent. Then came 3 knocks on the stairwell door and a too cheerful voice climbing up the shaft. "Sophie Miller? Could you open for a moment?" "Just a couple of questions for the local press." Alan looked at Catesby. The cat doubled his purring. Sophie and Victor exchanged a look. She drew a breath and placed herself between the door and the sofa. "Victor, stay with him," she said. "I'll handle it." The buzzer rang again. And on Victor's phone, a notification appeared. New photo. The thumbnail showed the stairwell from a minute ago. And the 3 of them entering the apartment. The green awning of La Casa Dulce dripped with frost. Inside, it smelled of warm butter, citrus vanilla, and freshly ground coffee. Sophie Miller had taken the table by the radiator. Her fitted coat hung from the chair, and her curly blonde hair looked like it had finally made peace with the dry air. Victor Alcott arrived brushing snow off his shoulders. He raised a hand, wearing that smile warmer than the radiator, and took a seat. "First, thank you." Alan said the blackout was a final boss-level adventure. He laughed.
"He's proud of himself, and so am I." "He earned it," Sophie replied. "You too."
Keeping calm like that isn't something everyone can do. The waitress set down 2 slices of cake. For Sophie, apple crumble pie with a drizzle of salted caramel. For Victor, blueberry tart with a hint of lemon. Drinks, chai with foam milk for her, thick hot chocolate for him, topped with a cloud of cream. "This looks like a peace treaty," he said, cutting his slice. "I surrender my insecurities, you give me breathing strategies. And for dessert, clear boundaries," Sophie smiled.
He took a sip and set his mug down, suddenly serious.
"I owe you an explanation. We're here because I messed up in public. Not a crime, just a bad decision amplified by people hungry for noise. A comment on a live stream, a party I shouldn't have been at." Suddenly there were cameras at home, at Alan's school.
He shut down, my mom cried, and he lifted his hands. Classic Gemini making jokes to put out fires.
And burning inside while he jokes, Sophie thought, and bit her tongue just in time. "Relax, Miller. You're a sucker for men with tragic faces." And of course he had that face, the one that smiles so it won't cry. And he's tall, kind to his brother, and smells like winter. "Control, please, control. No one here is judging you," she said aloud. "But I'm going to remind you that everything about Alan goes through Karen. I can support you as a colleague and neighbor." "Neighbor sounds like destiny," he joked. "I'll behave." "Promise on a joke with a contract." They laughed. Outside, the lake's brittle ice groaned like an old door. "Oh, there's one more thing," Victor added, lowering his voice. "Alan left his scarf in your apartment." Sophie paused mid-her with her spoon over the chai. "Great. They'll have to come up for it. And you, Sophie, think about snowflakes, electricity bills, anything except jumping this traumatized, dimpled hunk." She smiled with her best Leo composure. "Then we'll have to stop by and pick it up before it gets dark." Sophie Miller opened the door with surgical haste. "Grab the scarf and he leaves," she told herself. "Express scarf extraction protocol." She went straight to the coat rack. The soft wool peeking out like a blue tongue between jackets. She snatched it quickly. Behind her, Victor Alcott stepped inside without a sound and stopped at the edge of the living room kitchen. Hands in pockets, wearing a small smile. Catesby, the Siberian slept curled on the sofa, one eye half open in approval. "Sorry for barging in," Victor said. Just thank you for today and yesterday. And the epic blackout. Get out, give him the scarf. Goodbye, and thanks. Sophie looked up. He didn't seem in any rush to leave. The silence was kind. Do you want to sit for a minute? She heard herself say, surprised. I can make you something warm. I shouldn't, he smiled, but I'd love to. They sat at the counter. Sophie warmed milk and chocolate. The steam curled upward like domesticated chimney smoke. Victor looked around with sincere curiosity. Your place is beautiful. It has your character. Warm, organized, room to breathe, he said, meeting her eyes. And you? Sophie, you're beautiful. I don't say that as actor protocol. I come from a world where superficiality rules and people pretend they don't eat, especially women, watching you enjoy that pie. It was the bravest and sexiest thing I've seen in months. Heat rose in Sophie like a private sunrise. It wasn't the compliment, how he said it. No pose, danger. Well, here we eat, she replied. And we set boundaries when needed. I accept both menus, he joked softly, and lowered his voice. Thank you for taking care of Alan. He says Catsby makes a shield purr. I think you do too. They stayed like that, looking at each other. The apartment felt smaller, or maybe more focused. She took a breath. So did he. Victor set his fingers on the counter just a few centimeters from hers. Can I? He asked, not moving. Yes, Sophie said, clear. They leaned in with the kind of slowness that detonates. Warm breath, whispering fabric, fingers finally brushing. The first kiss was a test. The second, a certainty. Sophie's back found the edge of the sofa. Victor's hand found her most rebellious curl. Catsby opened an eye, assessed the drama, and went back to dozing. Sophie laughed under her breath, flushed and steady at once. Fair warning, she murmured. I know how to stop. I know how to follow your lead, he whispered. The kiss deepened, intentional, mutual, full of hands, breath, and that soft tremor low in the stomach. All right, Miller. Go on then, Victor hotness, ruin my life, Sophie thought. She had no idea this night would be the beginning of something that would append her quiet life completely. Morning came, and Sophie Miller and Victor Alcott were still in bed, their smiles from last night lingering and their breaths warm and intertwined. The doorbell rang at 8:15, too early for any baker and far too insistent to be a neighbor. Sophie looked at Victor. He nodded with a we-go-together gesture. She opened only the inner door, chain-latched, stance firm. Sophie Miller, right? Said a man bundled in a puffer jacket, microphone tucked into his scarf. Local press. We have a few quick questions about last night. He held up a grainy printout, the staircase, 3 figures entering. Sophie held his gaze. Victor exhaled slowly. Mini-statement, Sophie said, low but clear. We don't comment on personal matters. The only relevant information, Alan is receiving treatment with Karen, and we ask for respect for his process and for the community. Thank you for your discretion. Are you two together? Was there a night visit? The reporter pressed. We're busy taking care of a minor, Victor replied, steady, and busy not turning his life into a reality show. The man tried to slip the microphone through the gap. Catsby, the Siberian, planted himself in front of it, back arched like a Siberian guardian who knew the building better than anyone. A solemn merp. Sophie allowed herself the tiniest smile. Update. Reporters hovered near the school. Suggest protected schedule and if Alan is stable, a controlled outing, fair off-peak hour. Team, Sophie read it aloud. Victor was already nodding before she finished. Team, he confirmed. Just tell me where to sign. No signing. Sophie smiled. We implement. Small steps, long breaths, and hot chocolate after, he added. They looked at each other closely, adrenaline sparking like static. Their hands hovered over the counter, brushed, retreated conspiratorial. Alan first, they said at the same time, then laughed. The church bells chimed the half-hour, muffled by snow. Sophie opened the calendar on her phone. Off-peak time at the fair, today at 4. Low noise, short outing, escape route, she listed. Perfect, Victor said. See you at the cafe corner, Catsby meowed, as if signing off on the plan. At exactly 4 o'clock, the fair looked like a dress rehearsal set, lights on. Music almost at a whisper, vendors adjusting ribbons and cookies. Sophie Miller pointed at the map she had drawn on a small card short route, exit zones, and a rest bench. Plan A, B, and C, she said with her warm Leo smile. If anything bothers you, signal and we leave. All we need today is one small victory. Alan nodded, eyes on the carousel. Victor Alcott offered him his arm as if it were a safe bridge. Captain, I authorize a right turn toward the cookie stand, Victor whispered, amused. From the lake, the crackle of thin ice echoed. From the nearby stall came the scent of apple, cinnamon, and ginger. Sophie let Alan pick a sugar figure. He touched it with the tip of his finger as if reading Braille. A neighbor approached with transparent curiosity. Are you the... she began. We're the ones doing short, discreet shopping, Victor replied kindly. Today we're here for cookies and 5 minutes of lights. Nothing else. The woman smiled, understanding the code. Sophie thanked her with a small gesture and they continued. At the carousel, Alan chose a sleigh. Sophie stood beside him, Victor in front. They agreed on a hand signal code. 3 loops were enough. They got off with steady pulses. Level cleared, Alan said, very serious. Sophie and Victor bumped knuckles, quietly. Turning the corner, they found a man with a camera. Sophie lifted her hand, not hostile. No photos of minors, she said. Victor added, but I do recommend the chocolate stall. It's epic. The man hesitated, lowered the camera, and walked off in search of another target. The church bell struck a quarter. Time to retreat. They followed the escape route on the map and returned unhurried. At the building, Catsby the Siberian was perched on the windowsill, plume tail swaying, master of the welcome protocol. Alan greeted him with an orderly stroke. On the doormat lay a folded envelope. Sophie picked it up and read the bold marker letters. If you want peace, talk to me. I know who leaked the photo. Below, 3B. Victor looked at her, somewhere between alert and relieved.
Team? He asked. Sophie held his gaze steady.
Team. The note led them 1 floor up. The doormat of 3B read welcome calm in crooked lettering. Alvaro opened the door wearing a thick wool sweater and the under-eye circles of a journalist who'd slept too little, too many winters. I know who took the photo, he said without preamble. Tomas, a freelancer with a drone and rent due. It wasn't me. But I can ask him to take down what he posted and slow down the others if we gain control of the narrative. Define. Control, said Sophie Miller politely. No minors, 0 clinical details, 0 morbid angles. A short, clean statement, when Karen and you 2 authorize it. Either in my outlet or through the town council. The point is to cut off the water supply for those planning to profit off misery. Victor. Alcott rested his knuckles on the doorframe, thoughtful. Sounds reasonable if done right. But I'm not agreeing to anything without my mom and without Karen, and Alan is off limits forever. That's the idea. Alvaro nodded. I get peace in the building, you get time. And Thomas gets a dignified exit instead of digging deeper. Soft steps echoed down the hallway. Catsby the Siberian stopped in front of Alvaro, sniffed his shoe, then circled once before lying on his feet. Feline seal of approval. All right, Sophie said. Give me phone numbers and emails. I'll discuss it with Karen and Alan's mom. If we do this, it will be after stabilizing his routine. Deal, Alvaro replied, leaving a card on the entry console. And sorry about the photo. The town isn't always this nosy. In the landing, the air smelled of pine and detergent. Sophie pulled out her phone and drafted an email to Karen, summary of the proposal, risks, benefits. Victor watched her, pride unmistakable in his eyes. You're a lighthouse, he murmured. One that doesn't blind. Sophie smiled and held back the impulse to brush his hand. Today's plan, wait for Karen's response and keep a low profile, she said. Copy that, Victor replied. He hesitated a second, then laughed softly. I have an idea for when all this settles down. Starts with cooking and ends with candles. Sounds like a trailer, she teased. I'll text you the details once I talk to my mom, he promised. Victor's cabin sat just a few yards from the main house, a wooden rectangle with a porch. A row of amber lights along the eaves and snow piled on the steps. Inside, warm wood, a thick rug, shelves filled with annotated scripts and family photos. To the right, a compact kitchen with a breakfast bar. To the left, a low sofa draped with blankets and an electric fireplace mimicking crackles without the noise. "I've lived alone since I was 18, said Victor Alcott as he opened the door. "I love having my own space. I'm here because my family needs me close, but—" He smiled. "I still value being able to close my own door." On the bar, 2 covered plates, toasted bread, a bowl of salad, and a little note in elegant handwriting. "Son, I left the oven at 160. Have fun." "Mom," Sophie Miller smiled. "And what does your mother think about this?" she asked, gesturing to the air between them. "She's thrilled," he replied straightforwardly. "She says I finally brought home a real woman, with real laughter, a real body, and a real appetite. And that you see me, not my name." Sophie flushed. "I'm saving that for cloudy days." Victor pulled from the oven a vegetable and ricotta lasagna layered with pumpkin, spinach and mushrooms baked to a crisp golden top, in the pot a white rag with turkey and rosemary. He served fennel and orange salad with a touch of black olives. To drink, hot cider with cinnamon. "Smells like home," Sophie said, eyes bright. They ate slowly, chatting about small things until Sophie put her fork down, glanced at the faux flame, and opened the door inside herself. "I used to date a textbook narcissist," she said. "Irony of ironies. I'm a psychologist, and I didn't see it coming. He drained me, spoke to me horribly, made me believe my body was a problem. I gained weight, and he used that to humiliate me." She looked at the table, then at Victor. "It took a lot to leave. And since then I thought I'd lost my attractiveness, that someone like you wouldn't look twice at me unless it was just for a moment. That this is an affair you're enjoying and that's it." Silence, gentle. Victor leaned his elbows in, looking at her without fear. "I'm not playing, Sophie. I mean this with the exact words. I like you, the woman who eats cake with joy and no apology. The one who stands in front of a camera to protect a kid. The one who fills a room by turning on battery candles to soften the world. Those are virtues. What about my flaws?" She tried to joke. "That sometimes you talk to yourself the way he talked to you," he said softly. "That you hide behind professionalism when desire scares you. That you're a Leo and push yourself to shine even when just being would be enough. And I like that too, because you're a road, not a wall." Sophie swallowed, half laugh, half tear. "And my body?" she asked, direct. "It's the body of a woman who lives," he said. "Curvy, strong, beautiful, and desirable," he waited. "Is it okay to say it like that?" "It's okay," she said, her smile holding on its own. They served another portion. Victor talked about living independently at 18, about film sets teaching him to love silence, and why he chose this cabin. "I want to be son and brother without stopping being a man," Sophie told him. She'd started dancing again in her living room just a month ago. "Let's toast to that," he said, raising his cider. "To dancing again. And to not apologizing for eating," she added, clinking her mug. The air grew thicker in the soft way. Victor walked around the bar and stopped one step away. "May I?" he asked clearly. "Yes," Sophie said. They leaned in. Hands on cheeks, breaths aligning. The kiss was deep and slow, tasting of cinnamon and something new, fabrics brushed. Fingers asked questions helped by low voices. Victor rested his forehead on hers, smiling softly. "Like this?" "Yes," she said, steady. He guided her toward the bedroom. The warm wood creaked faintly. The wool of his sweater brushed her palms. A rebellious curl fell over her neck, and Victor moved it aside with a touch that was a question. She answered with a small tug on his lapel, an unmistakable invitation. The air thickened, tender and warm. They kissed again, closer. His fingertips traced the map of her arms. Hers found the pulse in his wrist and held it there like an anchor. Their breaths rose and fell. Pauses ignited more than continuity. A whisper in her ear, her name twice. A laugh caught in Sophie's throat that softened into a brief gasp. "If anything feels," Victor began. "I'll tell you," she cut him off with a smile. "Keep going." The world narrowed to the edge of the rug. Snow tapping the window, the cabin's amber light. Hands learned the path. Fabrics yielded just enough. A back arched in search. A mouth found an answer. Fingers pressed, skin warmed, breaths quickened words at her ear that sounded more like promises than phrases. When they finally slowed, they remained close, laughing softly in whispers, foreheads together, hearts racing. "I can't promise perfection," Victor murmured near her lips. "I can promise intention. And consistency. I promise honesty," Sophie replied. "And to remind us to take care of each other when the noise comes back." The electric fireplace gave a soft imitation of a crackle. Outside, the snow applauded with invisible fingers. The couple rested, blissed out after touching the sky several times. And the best was yet to come. The big house looked like a living postcard. The entry smelled of pine and cinnamon. Along the staircase, a garland of amber lights wrapped the banister like homemade constellations. In the living room, warm wood amplified the laughter, and snow traced filigrees across the window panes. The table dominated the center like a stage, an ivory tablecloth with red trim, wooden chargers, candles inside frosted glass jars, sprigs of fir dotted with cranberries like tiny jewels. On the sideboard, a choreographed lineup of dishes, carved turkey with a mild gravy, vegetable lasagna, oven-baked salmon with lemon and dill, buttery mashed potatoes, glazed carrots, Brussels sprouts with crispy pancetta, and a platter of winter salad, fennel, orange, pomegranate. Off to the side, the sweet battalion, apple pie, a giant cinnamon roll, gingerbread cookies in imperfect shapes freshly made by Sophie Miller, and a steaming chocolate pot waiting for its moment. Victor's mother organized the last details with joyful efficiency. Ellen, his father's partner, arrived with a dish of sweet potato mash topped with pecans. Victor's father, his coat still damp, kissed his ex-wife on the forehead with long-settled familiarity. Their divorce years ago had, surprisingly, left a steady friendship. Karen and her partner Gina came in carrying boxes wrapped in craft paper and twine. Alan, wearing a simple suit and carefully negotiated sneakers, wandered around holding a plan for the evening, timing, expected noises, and the route to the quiet corner. "Full team," said Victor Alcott, glowing. Sophie followed his gaze. She felt strangely at home. Her fitted coat hung on the rack, her rebellious curl tamed by sheer peace. Victor's mother squeezed her hands. "Welcome, sweetheart," she whispered. "Eat and laugh. Everything else falls into place." The toast was improvised by Victor's father, dry humor intact. To family in all its forms, to second chances, to those who know how to ask for help, and those who know how to hold it. And to the press. "May they eat their cookies far away tonight?" Laughter, glasses clinked. Alan raised his cider with ceremony. During dinner, conversations flowed along clear tracks. Karen and Sophie exchanged looks of professional complicity, careful boundaries, plans for January. Gina told a joke about Christmas carols and pitch that even made Victor's father laugh. Victor served everyone and, whenever he thought no one was watching, brushed a fingertip against Sophie's wrist. Domestic love, quiet and pure. Then came gifts. In a corner of the living room, a tall tree dressed in wooden ornaments and red ribbons guarded parcels of every size. Alan received a magnetic construction kit and noise-canceling headphones. His smile rose like a sunrise. Karen and Gina opened a box of twin ceramic mugs with green speckles and a gift card for dinner at La Casa Dulce. Victor's mother, laughing, gave her ex-husband and Ellen a double apron that read, "Mix without drama." When it was Sophie's turn, Victor's gift was light. Inside, a small wooden key carved with tiny initials. "It's fake," he explained. "You don't need the real one. I just want you to know this cabin and this table are places you can walk into without asking permission." Sophie breathed deeply, her heart like a wool-lined bell. Her gift for him, a hand-bound notebook with cotton pages and a note for writing what can't be said in interviews. Ellen pointed at the window. On the outside sill, a fluffy silhouette. "Is that your cat?" "Catsby, the office supervisor." Sophie smiled. "He likes doing rounds." Victor's mother switched on the chocolate pot. Distant bells signaled the end of the carols on the radio. Victor met Sophie's eyes above the cups. "Team, no matter what happens?" he asked, without theatrics. "Team," she replied, steady. Alan, solemn, recorded in his evening plan, Christmas Eve, level completed. And for the first time in days, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. It felt like home. It felt like yes. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and stay to watch the next one.